Hi everyone, it's Lauren here from Guthrie and Ganny, and in this video I'm going to be sharing with you the live recording from my question and answer session that I did over on the Instagram platform on Monday the 13th of February. So I'm going to be answering lots of questions that you've sent in beforehand, all about different sewing and dressmaking tips and advice that you are looking for, and then recommendations to match up patterns and fabrics as well. So I've got lots of lovely fabrics out from around my shop to show you tonight, and lots of inspiring ideas. So I hope that you learn lots of new things and you are inspired to try something new, or just get a little seed planted for a new project. If you're watching here on YouTube and you do have any questions you'd like me to answer in a following session, then please just leave a comment below, or you can also ring or email the shop as well. Or if you do use Instagram, then you can send me a message on there too, and I'll add your question onto my list for next time. But I hope you enjoy watching it. Remember, if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, remember to hit subscribe so you don't miss out on my next video. I've got a really exciting announcement video coming out later in this week, so yeah, make sure that you get the notification for when that is uploaded. So I'll switch over to the live now. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you soon. Hi everyone, good evening on this Monday evening. I hope you're all doing really well tonight. Had a nice weekend, whatever you were up to. Maybe a bit of sewing, maybe not. Hello, it's nice to see you. Lovely to see you all, and thanks all for joining me tonight for another hour of fun fabric chat. I've got lots of things out as always to show you, so lots of fabric and pattern recommendations for sewing projects, so the requests that you've sent in beforehand, and then also some really good questions, people looking for different advice and tips and things. So hopefully you can learn lots of new things and maybe get some inspiration, or it might be that you can share your own experiences as well. So do feel free, as I'm like chatting or saying anything, or I'm like reading out the questions that people have sent in beforehand, if you've got any experience yourself that you want to share or you think might be useful to help others, then please feel free to chip in as well, and I will try and keep up with all of your comments and everything, read them out too, so that we can all share together. Always one brain is always better than one, as they say. I had the family over this weekend, so no sewing. Well, it does sound fun anyway. Hi from Tullybody. I'm back from a long holiday in Forteventura. Nice. Somebody's saying lovely top, thank you. I haven't worn this one for a while because it was on the rail in the shop as a sample, and then I was in the shop one day and I was like, oh, that's where that is, I'm gonna take that and then start wearing it again. It's the Merchant and Mills Ellsworth shirt, so it's like got really kind of loose oversized shirt, like you can see how oversized it is, and then it becomes a little bit more fitted into the sleeve, got little cuffs, and then it's like a pop over placket, so the buttons just stop here. It's a really simple shape, and then it's like a proper stand collar there, and it's made, so we did this as a kit towards the end of last year. We do still have some left, I think, of these kits in the Sewing Society section online, so yeah, if you like it you can get it there. I don't think we've got any of the fabric left by the meter, but yeah, we do still have the kits. I sized down a couple of sizes on this one, and it's still really big. That's just the style of it. I think because it's in a swishy viscose, then it just sort of, yeah, it's like nice and kind of swingy and loose. I also I shortened mine a bit as well. So yeah, I'm making my kit version at this very moment. Snap, there you go. That sounds good. I made a sleeveless top adapting the top of a dress and left over grey sparkly knit that I got from G&G. Excellent. Good evening, Lauren and everybody. It's half term, so I'm hoping to get plenty of sewing done. Yeah, it's not half term here until next week. So it seems like it's a little bit different across the country when different people are having half terms. So yeah, that sounds good. If you've got a whole week of half term, you can do some sewing. So that is excellent. So yeah, I'm gonna get stuck into answering the questions that have been sent in beforehand. I never got the heads up on the new Sewing Society kit this month. Have I been kicked off the early warning email list? So the heads up on the new Sewing Society kit comes out in the mid-month, so it'll always be like 2 weeks after the release email's gone out. So it'll go out on Wednesday which is like mid-month of February. So then in that newsletter, we kind of give like a little sneak peek of what's coming up in the next release, so that'll be in March, so we give like a little sort of hint for that. But then also in the mid-month newsletter that's coming out on Wednesday, there will be like a little sort of update and announcement about what's happening about our 10th birthday celebrations, which are going to be in April. So yeah, you can see a little update there, which is exciting. But no, you've not missed anything, don't worry. Thank you for inspiring me to make a tamarack this weekend. I was just looking at your tamarack. It is amazing. It is absolutely gorgeous. I love it. I love it. Excellent job there. Hi, I'm still in Southwell sewing shed, but busy with making blinds and bench cushions for the house. Miss my dressmaking. I know sometimes when you have to do those more practical sewing things, they just, yeah, you sort of long to make something to wear, don't you? My navy linen interfacing and thread arrived. Fabric already washed, cut and about to start sewing the trapeze dress. Thank you, great quality. That sounds like a good combination. Okay, lovely. Well, yeah, one of the things I was going to tell you about was about the update that is coming on Wednesday. So yeah, sign up to our newsletter if you haven't already to get that. There'll be like a little YouTube video about it and a little blog post as well, just giving some details about the event that we're having in April, which I'd sort of hinted at before. And yeah, just like more information about what's happening really. So it's all getting very exciting because I've been so busy doing like so many things for for this birthday month for so long, but I wanted to get the timing right in terms of when I started telling you about it. Okay, somebody else is saying, I am hand finishing a kimono type cover up for summer, but now need to finish my matching trousers. What an outfit, that sounds great. Okay, so the other thing that I wanted to just share was that, because I post the videos on YouTube as well, and then obviously the people who are then rewatching on YouTube can't like chat live or anything, then sometimes people leave comments which I think are like useful for everybody to hear, and one of them was about a question that I got asked last week, which was, I think the question was about like, should I learn how to draft my own block, or should I go on a course or get a book on drafting a bodice block? And yeah, we were sort of having a little bit of chat about that. So this lady said, I use the pattern drafter tool to draft my own bodice block, which doesn't involve a huge amount of calculations because the tool has markers you use according to your measurements. The bodice block doesn't take long to make up. The tool comes with a book, but they also have courses which you can get separately. It might be worth getting the tool if you enjoy this side of things, as in like you enjoy, you know, that kind of side of like pattern drafting and the sort of mathematics of it all and the kind of visualization of it all. If the fit of patterns is difficult, and also if you have others to sew for, which is what I do. I have 3 children, 2 young adults. I also sew for my husband, so the tool does come in handy, and the way it teaches you is very straightforward. Having said that though, design is completely different to actually sewing the garment. So many people these days just want quick and easy without all the steps. I personally don't mind it because the block is just that. I trace it off so I don't have to keep making a new one. It fits really well. Then if it fits really well, then it's easy to use, each to their own, I guess. So that was just somebody's experience of using the pattern drafter tool. I'm not really familiar with it myself, but maybe if you have kind of come across that before or sort of heard it and you are interested in drafting your own block, might be something to look into a little bit. Totally off subject, Lauren, but your makeup looks lovely tonight. Oh, thank you. Okay, so the questions that were sent in beforehand, feel free to, as I said before, feel free to ask along as I'm chatting, and then we can all share together. So the first one was, have you ever made patterns out of existing clothes? So I have done once that I can like definitely remember. It was a really simple top that I had bought in a shop, which I really liked, and I'd worn it a lot, and it was just like a front and back with a little grown on sleeve and a bust start really, and a bias binding neckline, so it's quite simple to copy. But then so yeah, my friend Layla sort of helped me kind of copy it, but then you still have to make a toile and sort of check that it kind of fits and it's definitely going to be the same. I would say kind of in the vein of like drafting your own bodice block. I feel like you'd have to really enjoy that side of things to, you know, really feel the benefits out of that. What might be easier if you want to, I suppose I think it depends what you're most interested in, what part of the process you're most interested in, and maybe like what the garment's like as well, because it might be easier if you just find something that's very similar and then adapt that a little bit, rather than like having to sort of totally start from scratch. So yeah, hopefully that gives you a few ideas. The next question was, could I make the Hovea Sewing Society kit with the Shearling lining, and which version? So yes, you definitely could. In the pattern, it's view C that is the lined version, and then it says that that has the collar and belt. But you could definitely make any of the versions with the Shearling lining. So a little bit like the tamarack jacket, the green line tamarack jacket that I was showing you last week. This part, I just sort of made it as if it was unlined in the way that, so the way that I lined this one was that I cut out the outer pieces, I cut out the lining pieces, and then before I started constructing the garment, I put them wrong sides together, and then I hand basted within the seam allowance all the way around the outer perimeter of each piece. So then it kind of made those two layers like one. So then as I was constructing it, I just treated it as one layer of fabric and bound all of the edges and everything. So you could definitely do that with the Hovea pattern. The other option would be that you did kind of sort of treat them separately, and you could just like make the outer and make the inner using the same pattern pieces. And then if you were doing the collar version, then as you sort of turned the collar round, you would kind of catch the lining in that, and then you'd have to sort of then catch the lining and the hem as well. You'd probably have to cut a bit off the bottom of the lining because it would be too long to sort of fold back on itself. You'd be able to work that out when you got to that section. So you could do it that way. Or if you were doing the binding version, then you could just make the lining, make the outer, and then attach them round like the outside edge. And then when you did the binding on the outside edge or on the collar, then you would just catch the lining and the outer together there as well. So I think even though in the instructions it's view C that's the lining, that's what the instructions will be like, you could definitely just kind of choose whatever version you wanted really, and then sort of do kind of similar to what I had done here. I have a large piece of polar fleece to make a simple blanket for my son. How would I finish the edges? Would serging it be okay, or would you hem it? I'd probably hem it, to be honest. Would love to learn, but I'm rubbish at math, so prefer to use patterns. Love Tilly and the buttons. Her instructions are amazing. Yeah, they are really good. Are there different types of elastic other than the width? How do you know which is the best for your project? A stretch seems to vary quite a bit. I would potentially say that maybe stretch is varying maybe on the quality. There's not any sort of classification that I'm aware of that sort of defines what the stretch is. Usually it is just the width. The Prim brand that we stock in the shop, they have quite a lot of different types of elastic, where they'll have ones that say they've got lateral stiffness, so it means that they don't buckle as much. Like when you say that was like the strip of elastic, when you squish them, they don't really buckle as much, like they've got sort of reinforcing bits in it that way. Then they've got a pajama elastic one, which is very, very soft, and I feel like it rolls too much, to be honest. I think it's too soft. So the Prim ones sort of like specify it a little bit more, but the more kind of general elastics, I don't know, they're just like plain width, and we sell them by the half meter. I'm not aware of like any specific stretch calculation on them. So yeah, sorry, that's not really like a straightforward answer, but maybe gives you a little bit of context. I just did my first side pockets on a skirt. Is there any good YouTube post you could recommend to show this, please? Do you mean like inseam pockets? Is that what? First side pocket, is that what you mean? I think there's different ways to do that. The sew over at Ava skirt has inseam pockets, and the way that they're constructed is like possibly a little bit different to how some other pockets I've seen inseam pockets go in. we did do the Sew Over Ava skirt as a Sewing Society kit. I think that was a couple of, not last winter, but the winter before. So there is the tips video that you can still get that went with that kit, and it shows you how to put the pockets in that skirt. So you could check that out. That's in the video section on the Sewing Society pages on the website. So you could have a look at that. Off the top of my head, that's the first thing I can think of. Hiya, I made the Megan Nielsen Rowan polar neck in the Meat Milk ribbed tencel fabric. I really love it, but I feel like the sleeve hems and hem are going to stretch out of shape in time. Any advice? You could try putting the stretch fix on it. You'd have to unpick it. You could try putting the stretch fix on that and maybe like help to stabilize it a little bit more. Yeah, that's exactly the one I did for the inseam pockets. Okay, Elaine, yeah, I would check out my Sewing Society top tips video, because then I sort of show you how to construct those pockets. There's fold over elastic too for bags and the fancy stuff for pleated skirts, but I agree, PJ elastic is less stiff. I find the Meat Milk fabric does stretch out at the hems too, but when I iron it with lots of steam, it pops back into shape. Yeah. Okie doke. Right, so next on my list was, can I do French seams on jersey? I mean you could, but I don't think you need to. Jersey doesn't fray. So you don't really need to do it for that reason. And I feel like it would get too bulky, and I don't know if you would want that. But I mean, technically you could, but I really don't think that you need to, or that it would like necessarily be that beneficial. It would make the seam quite stiff and quite bulky, I think. Will you ever tumble dry any of your me-made items? This is one that I feel quite torn about, because generally no, like I would not recommend it. Tumble drying is not good for clothes. It definitely like takes the body out of them a lot quicker, and it makes them shrink too. You know, you get all that fluff in your tumble dryer, like that's coming out of your clothes, that's all the fibres coming out of your clothes. So it does, you know, it does kind of like, I think it just sort of wears fabrics out a lot quicker. But having said that, I do tumble dry some like the majority of my clothes, like I would like 99% of my clothes are clothes that I've made, and I do tumble dry some of them. Most of them are jersey fabrics actually, which, you know, you do definitely need to be aware that if you're going to be tempted to end up doing that, definitely tumble dry your fabric as part of your pre-wash to get some of that shrinkage out the way. But if I was like, you know, really truly giving a proper recommendation, I would say no, but if I'm being honest, I do a little bit sometimes. Okay, the next one was how to go about using a zip closure on a tamarack jacket making from the start. So this is having like an exposed centre front zip on the tamarack. So I think what you would need to do, I was having a look at mine to try and sort of like work it out. I think what you need to do is work out where the centre point is, so that's sort of like where they overlap, because essentially you want the front openings to kind of be like butting up against each other, and then they'll have the zip in the middle. So if you don't take something out of there where they sort of overlap just now, where those like poppers are, then it's just going to make the jacket wider, which you might not mind. But then again, you might also mind it. You might want it to be like a little bit more fitted. Now, so that would be the first thing, is that I think you need to work out where that centre front point is, and then so you're like taking it out so that the front edges butt up against each other rather than overlapping. And then the next stage would be to think about how you're then going to finish that zip on the inside and whether you're lining it or not. So either you're going to be like not really doing anything if you're using the quilted fabric and you're not like doing anything on the inside. I would probably overlock the edge just to like hold it together, and then you would sew the zip on like that with the teeth here. So you'd sew it on and then you'd like flip it round like this. So then the teeth are kind of sticking out over here now, and then you would top stitch that down so that then the zip tape is sort of held on the inside, and then at the top you'd have to just sort of like fold the zip tape over a little bit. And then I'm trying to think how that would then sort of work with like the top edge though and where the binding is. I think you just have to do it, you'd maybe like bind it first, or you know, the bind, I don't know, I'd have to sort of play around with how that was looking at the top. I think maybe what would be neater is if that you were lining it, then you could, you know, you could obviously then sandwich the zip in between the outer and the lining fabric and then kind of turn it round, and then the zip would just sort of be sticking out nicely. The other thing is you could also maybe just sort of make a kind of facing to go on the inside, so maybe you're not lining the whole thing, but you're just sort of creating a strip that you can kind of do the same thing as what I just described with the lining, so that then, you know, you don't see the zip tape on the inside and the teeth of the zip just sort of stick out. But yeah, it's just like how you sort of then neaten off that top edge of it, really, and whether you were doing the hood or not and kind of where that came into it. It's one of those things that I would have to sort of try and work through as I was doing it, but I think it was a lady called Helen that asked that question, and I know her because she's been on workshops, and I think you could work it out, Helen. But if you got stuck, send me a picture and I'll see if I can try and visualise it through. Okay, let's see. Thank you. Are you going to get any more of the Mind the Maker Thelma bias binding and indigo back in stock? Yes, I ordered some this morning, and so because we ran out of a lot of the colours quite quickly, so I've got all of the colours coming back and lots of the binding as well. Totally under ordered on the binding before, but I checked, they've got it all in stock. They're on a winter break at the moment, but they said they would be shipping it out to me on Wednesday. So by the time it comes and clears customs, etc., it's probably going to be beginning of next week that it's back again, but it's on the way. What are some good recommendations for overlocker threads, please? We use Madeira ones. We use a few different ones in the studio. The Madeira ones are pretty good. We also use Coats ones, which are good as well. The Madeira ones have like a little bit more of a sheen to them, I feel, with Coats. The Coats ones are a bit more matte. Both are good. Other people might have other favourite brands that they like. View A doesn't overlap. Okay. Maybe I totally forgot that. Yeah, so View A of the tamarack doesn't overlap, in which case you don't need to work out what I was just asking you there. Thank you. I always use moon thread in my overlocker. So perfect for a zip. I have moon thread in my overlocker too. I use moon thread. Okay, a lot of people using moon thread. Do you use moon thread only through the needles or in all four spools? All four spools. But what the other thing that you can do though is that if you're sewing with quite an unusual colour and you don't have overlocker threads that match that unusual colour, then you can just put the matching thread in the left hand needle only, so that, and then the looper threads would be like your other overlocker thread, your normal sort of cone colours, and then it just means then when you sort of see the seam from the outside of the garment, and if you happen to see like a little bit of the thread, it's the matching thread rather than your overlocker thread, so you could do that as well. Can you recommend a pattern for a pull-on jersey skirt, please? Fairly straight, almost tube-like, and your recommendations for warm jersey and one for the summer. So unless anybody knows a pattern like that, shout it out and I'll share, but otherwise I'm probably going to have to add that list to my list for next week, because I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to do a little bit of research for that one. If anybody has made a pattern for a pull-on jersey skirt, then please share. Moon thread in all four, loopers needles. What fabric would you recommend for the Tilly and the Buttons Stevie pattern? I think it depends what sort of look you want to go for. You could either go for something like that's a little bit more stable, like a cotton lawn or a cotton chambray, or a linen would be nice as well. Or you could go for something a bit more floppy. A viscose linen would be nice, or even floppier, something like an actual viscose like this one. So it's quite a versatile pattern. The more structure in the fabric, like the linens and the cotton lawns and the chambrays, they're going to be easier to sew, but they are going to give more of a boxy feel and look to the garment. Whereas anything that's got more viscose fibres in it, like the viscose linen mix or the viscose fabric, is obviously more floppy. So it just, will sort of move and swish around a bit more, but those fabrics are a little bit more challenging to sew. So just getting that balance right for what you feel confident with versus what look you want to go for. If it is not a common colour, I buy two and then pilot some thread onto bobbins for the needles. That sounds good. Put some bobbin put some thread onto bobbin for the needles. I've just made the Tilly and the Button BB skirt from the Stretch book. That sounds similar to what you're looking for. Yeah, okay, so in the Tilly and the Button Stretch book, the BB skirt, yeah, that's coming back to me now, because they have a version where you can sort of make a bib for it as well, can't you? And then it's, yeah. I think Sew Over It do a jersey tube skirt. Somebody else recommending the BB skirt in our Stretch book. Sew House 7 do a tube pull-on skirt and it's free. Excellent, even better. I found Madeira thread to be best for the overlocker. Good to know. There's a pull-on jersey skirt in the Tilly and the Button Stretch book. Okay, so a few people, yeah, lots of people are recommending the Sew Over It one and the Tilly and the Buttons one. So I think the Sew Over It one, was that the free one? And then the Tilly and the Buttons one is in her Stretch book. I use the moon thread a lot, but the cone ones are colours I use a lot and the loopers use more thread. Sew House 7 Elemental. Okay, that's the name of the skirt for the Sew House 7 one. When you made the Dawson top, did you lengthen the pattern? No, I didn't. The Maker's Atelier book has a pull-on jersey pencil skirt. I have made it twice and it's a really nice shape. Okay, so another one there. I love the tip about putting thread onto a couple of bobbins. Thank you. All good tips, everybody. Thanks for sharing. Okay, the next one was, how do you line a bodice when the pattern doesn't say to do so? So there's a couple of options that you can do. You can either, how do you line a bodice when the pattern doesn't say to do so? So if it's a bodice, then you can either sew the outer and sew the lining and then attach them at the neckline with, it's obviously going to depend what sort of opening you've got, like if you've got a zip and things as well, but say you then attach them around the neckline with the right sides facing, and then you might want to trim the seam allowances, clip into them, then understitch on the lining through the seam allowances underneath as well. That helps the lining to stay inside, and then the lining just all sort of flips in. So then you've kind of got, it's like two separate things really, but they're just joined at the neckline, and then it might be that you're joining them at, say there's like a zip in the back as well, so you maybe you could sew the zip into the into just the outer fabric, and then you'd probably want to sew the lining on as well. I'm just picturing how it would work. So then as you sewed around the neckline, you'd kind of be sewing down the opening of where the zip was as well. The other way that you could do it is that you could, a bit like what I described for the tamarack, so basically where you cut out the outer piece and you cut out the lining, and then before you actually start constructing, you put them together with the wrong sides facing, and then you baste them together within the seam allowance and basically treat it then as one bit of fabric, and then just construct it as the pattern is instructing anyway, and then finishing off that neckline seam is either going to be through a facing if it's got one, or a binding, or you know, whatever it is. You're just kind of treating it as one layer, and it's all, by the time you've actually sewn it, it's already lined. So they're kind of like two ways that you can do it. So somebody else was asking about lining and saying what's a good first project to do if you're lining. I would probably say a skirt is the easiest. And I've got a tutorial that I did a couple of years ago that is on lining a skirt. And basically all we need to do is like make the outer skirt, make the inner skirt but without the waistband, and then basically when you put the waistband on, you just catch the lining within that, so you're like hemming them separately. So I would say that's probably like the easiest thing to do. But you know, other patterns that you can, you know, that you can line that aren't necessarily lined, like this style of dress, for example, that's the Avid Seamstress Day dress, and I think that's got a facing, I think, at the back. So you could line that in the way that the two ways that I just described, or also the closet core one, and you could either do, you know, if it's just like the simple top, you could line it. You can either choose to do a facing or binding on this top, or you could do like, you know, the longer version of the dress. You could do the shorter sleeves. So just, you know, it's just like a sort of plain kind of straight shift dress. So you could do it on that as well. So I hope that gives you a few pointers. Thanks for the pull-on skirt, very impressed with your instant recall. Okay, so the next, where did I get to? What's your favourite pattern? I find questions like this really hard to pick because over the years I've like built up to just make all of my clothes that I kind of end up having like a favourite pattern in different genres of garment. So I would probably say for jeans, my favourite pattern's the Closet Core Ginger. For trousers, it used to be the Closet Core Sasha, but I actually think it's now the Anna Allen Philippa pants. That's what I've got on tonight. I really like this one. It's got a button fly. And then for jumpers, I really like the Megan Nielsen Jara. For shirts, it's the Closet Core Archer. I've got loads of versions of them. So yeah, I've got lots of favourite patterns. I'm afraid I can't pick one. I also really love making coats and jackets, and I can't pick a favourite one there. I like the Kelly Anorak. I like the Tamarack. Latest make, favourite one, clearly. Okay, so the next question was, I'm terrified of my serger / overlocker. It has been in a box since 2022. Do you have any advice? Don't be scared would be my first piece of advice. It's definitely not going to be as scary as you think it's going to be. And I think if you feel like you need a sort of helping hand or somebody to kind of talk you through it, Tilly and the Buttons and the Stitch Sisters, that are both UK companies, this lady was in America I think, they both have online courses that you can take at your own pace, and they sort of like break it down, and I've not actually done either of them, but a lot of people who watch recommend those ones. So yeah, I would take an online course if you feel like you need sort of it breaking down and some helping hands. But definitely the headline is don't be terrified. It won't be as bad as you think, and you will quickly become really addicted and love it. Okay, the next one was any tips on how to use a hem marker, because sometimes the lines aren't too distinct. So this is a hem marker where it's like this, that I've mentioned this a couple of weeks now recently. It's where it's that stick that has like measure, you know, like measure intervals on it, with a little pot of chalk. Connected to the pot of chalk is a tube with a puffer on the end. So you have to like adjust this pot of chalk to whatever height your hem is going to be, and then you squeeze the puffer and it shoots like a line of chalk out. I think if the chalk marking is not that clear, check it's not blocked. And then also it might be that you need to top the chalk up, maybe there's not enough, or that you need to like squeeze the little puffer thing harder so that more force is going through it and it's puffing out more of the chalk, or try and stand a bit closer to it as well so that it gives a bit more of a clear, crisp line. Okay, so the next one was, what exactly are the pins that can be used on knit fabrics? I cannot find ball pins everywhere. I actually just use regular pins on jersey fabric, but I do use ballpoint needles. And in my head, the reason is that when you're using a ballpoint needle on the sewing machine and you're actually like making more of a permanent hole in it that's got a thread in it, that you want to be doing that with a ballpoint needle so that it's not like stabbing or kind of going through the fibers of the fabric. It's the ballpoint needle pushes through them, so then it's less likely to cause a hole later. Whereas the pins are like a temporary thing, so I've never found any problem with it. I mean, you will find people who sew jersey garments without a ballpoint needle and don't have any problems as well, so you know, it's all swings and roundabouts, but I wouldn't worry about it too much, really, is the headline here. Okay, the next one was, hi, I've just joined, I'm making the Avid Seamstress blouse. It's a great fit apart from a bit snug over the bust. Any ideas on how I can fix this? I think if you've already made it, your main option really is going to be to let out the side seams. If you're making it again, you could just size up by 1 over the bust, so you've just got a little bit more room. It's very helpful when you tell us which patterns you're wearing, as I find it difficult sometimes to know what to wear with me maids. Yeah, so this is the Merchant and Mills Ellsworth blouse and the Anna Allen Philippa pants that I've got on tonight. Do you have any new fabrics to show us? Not this week, I'm afraid. There is more. There's loads and loads of amazing new, really lovely viscose prints coming in soon, but I think that might be next week that they're coming. And then we've got another palette of fabrics coming. got a notification about that today. I think that's due this week. So hopefully by next week they would all be ready to be online. I've seen people sewing over some pins. Is there a special type for this? No. People who sew over pins, I'm afraid I'm sometimes one of them. I don't know, it's just like taking a risk. The risk is if you sew over a pin is that your needle from your sewing machine hits it and bends the pin, or the needle breaks, or it affects how the machine is feeding the fabric, which can then sort of put your seam allowance off a little bit and kind of chew things up and make the fabric get stuck. So ideally you're not really supposed to, but you know, sometimes people do. I guess if they're like quite thin pins, then maybe there's less chance that the needle might hit it, but technically you're not supposed to. But yeah, some people do, and I have to admit I do it sometimes as well. Okay, the next one was, a while ago you talked about a new dress pattern you wanted to try. Can you remember which? Ooh, I couldn't actually really remember, but I thought that it might be this one, which we sell as a PDF pattern on the website, which is why it's in this little plastic folder. It's from our PDF pattern folder that we have in the shop. It's the Named Patterns Taika. And yeah, if you have a little look at the modelled images of this, it's really nice. The skirt looks quite wide here, but you can make it in a viscose and then it becomes a little bit more swishy. But yeah, I just think it's really, really cute and nice one. So I think it might have been that one. Yeah, people are saying don't sew over pins. Yeah, definitely you shouldn't really do it. Okay, the next one is, what do you do when you feel like you have lost your ability to sew properly? ... I just want to cry. I'm really sorry you feel like that. That sounds really rubbish. Please don't cry, and please don't be hard on yourself either. Sewing is meant to be fun. I think maybe if you're feeling like you've lost your ability to sew, it sounds like maybe you're just lacking in confidence a little bit, and it might be maybe you're doing something that you feel like is quite challenging, and maybe then when you're sewing, maybe you're not like in the right frame of mind, or it's just like too much to kind of take on that much of a challenge. So maybe if you've made something before in the past and it's gone well, maybe you could try remaking that thing again. I mean, it might also be, obviously there could be lots of things going on here. All I know is that sort of headline sentence. It might be maybe that I don't think you're going to lose your ability to sew. It might be maybe that you've just not got the best fabric and pattern combinations, and then maybe it's your project's not turning out the way that you had kind of envisioned that it might. So yeah, I think you just need to like take a step back and don't be hard on yourself. Everybody has projects that flop. Even I have it as well. So yeah, I'm sorry that you feel like that. Okay, some other comments here. Remember, never sew over a pin with an overlocker, as it means a trip to the repair shop. It knocks the timing out. Very true. Definitely with an overlocker, don't do it. It's high risk. Don't use pins in an overlocker. It really damages the knife. I use quilting clips as they're too big to go through, so you have to remove them when you get to them. I hit a pin which I don't know was there. My needle broke and it went into my machine and put it out of order. My machine had to go to the engineer. Don't do it. Yeah. Very true. All very true. Okay, the next one was, how much did you raise the neckline on the Norma blouse to be round? So this was the Fibre Mid Norma blouse pattern, which is a V-neck, and I changed it to be a round neck. I didn't have time to actually go and measure it against my pattern, but I'll try and remember and do that for next week. But what you can do is just get your front bodice piece, the pattern piece, the paper piece, look in the mirror and hold it up in front of your body. Just take account of the seam allowance at the top, you know, you'll like lose a little bit of height there, and see where the V is kind of coming to, and then decide where you what height you want it to be at, and then you can just decide it on yourself how high you want it to be. I think on mine maybe sort of sits kind of roughly about there. Obviously depending on your own body dimensions that might change as well. And then I just sort of put a little bit of pattern paper in to kind of fill out that section, and just make sure that here you don't go up right away. You have to kind of, from the center point, you need to go out, I would say maybe by like 1 centimetre to 1.5 centimetres, like at a right angle, and then sort of curve back up again. So yeah, you can try that. Okay, the next one was, I desperately want help regarding marking. I've tried chalk pencils, but the chalk constantly keeps breaking. My personal favourite marking tools are the Clover Chaco liners, and these have a little wheel at the top, at the nib, that turns round as you draw a line, and then this is loose chalk here, which you can get refillable cartridges for, and then it dispenses a really clear sharp line. So if you want a very straight specific line, I use it to mark darts, that sort of thing, then you can, that is good for marking sharp lines, and it obviously, you know, it doesn't blunt because it's a little wheel that's just turning round. So you get them in lots of different colours. That's just the blue and yellow. It also comes in pink and grey and white. And then the other one that I've used quite a lot, which I really like, are the Clover Chacopel pencils. So you get, they come in a little pack, so you've got a grey and a yellow, and then like a double-sided one that's pink / red and blue, come with a little sharpener as well. And I've just found these really good because they're not too waxy. So you know, when you draw on it, you don't have to apply that much pressure. I think sometimes the dressmaker's chalks pencils can be quite waxy, so you have to press quite hard on the fabric to actually get it to mark, and then it just breaks the chalk. Whereas these ones don't really do that as much. So then if it's more like a pinpoint thing that you're looking to do, then I do like these ones as well. But the other thing is, what I'll quite often do is just use a tailor's tack. Like if I want a very precise, a very specific sharp point, and I know it needs to be like super duper accurate, I don't use chalk, I would use a tailor's tack for that. So so a few suggestions there. The next one was any tips of cutting a skirt on the bias, also to alter around the waist. Fabric is viscose. If you're watching this, let me know what you want to alter around the waist, because I'm not really sure how to answer that part of it. Somebody else was asking about cutting a skirt out on the bias before. What you need to do is, if you imagine this is your bit of fabric and that is your selvage, you need to fold it like this, so that you've got like a 90-degree angle here, and then this is like 45-degree angle here, and then this is your fold. So then you would place your front skirt piece on the fold here, and then that's you cut it out on the bias. If you're using viscose, I would definitely make sure that you have like washed it, let it dry, and then iron it totally flat with a really nice hot steamy iron immediately before you come to cut it out, because you want to make sure that it's not got any sort of creases or bumps in it when you cut it out, because it will just sort of knock out the cutting, the accuracy of the cutting a little bit. Ideally, if you've got a cutting mat and a rotary cutter, you could use that, but that might be quite hard. You need quite a big area to do that if you're going to do that. So then otherwise I would maybe like weigh it down and then put lots of pins around the outer edge so the fabric doesn't shift too much. And you could even pin at the fold as well, even though you're not cutting that, but it might just help to stabilize the fabric so it doesn't move as much. So yeah, that's what I would suggest there. Take on for the waist. Take in for the waist. Should that be take in for the waist? I think you just need to sew a bigger seam allowance. It depends how your waistband's getting stabilized. It might be, maybe you could just if the waistband's then cut on the straight grain, maybe you could just make that smaller and then like ease the bias in a little bit more. Okay, the next one was, my machine is skipping stitches and bunching thread on one side. What's going on? My troubleshooting things would be, make sure you've got a sharp needle in your machine, a new one, that your sewing machine needle's not old. Make sure that you have wound your bobbin correctly at tension, so the bobbin can't be loose and loopy. Make sure the bobbin's in the right way round so that the thread is coming off it correctly and it's caught in its mechanism. If the thread comes off too quickly and is loose from the bobbin, it can cause bunching. Make sure that you have threaded your machine properly when the needle is at the highest position, that you're pulling your bobbin thread through. I think if you've checked all those basic things and it's still doing it, it might be maybe you just actually need to get your machine sort of checked and serviced. The next one was, I bought 2.5 meters of the Atelier Brunette Seed Viscose as my first foray into drapey fabrics. It's so slippery and I'm very nervous. I've no idea what pattern to try. I'm a confident beginner but new to this fabric. My two top suggestions would be the Tilly and the Buttons Indigo and the Tilly and the Buttons Lotta. I've made both of them in viscose, this one specifically, and the Atelier Brunette Seed Viscose, and really nice. The instructions are good, so you're not gonna have to worry about sort of that kind of thing. But as I was saying before in the bias question, you know, make sure you're you're pressing it using lots of pins, weigh it down. You can use the forming tape on the neckline to stabilise it so it doesn't stretch out instead of stay stitching. I would suggest using that too. And just take your time with it. Plenty of pins and you know, you'll be fine. I can't believe this hour is passing really quickly. I've still got like so many questions to answer. I'm going to quickly try and catch up with any comments that have come in here, and then I'm going to try and fire through some of these in the next 15 minutes. I don't know how this hour runs out so quickly. Okay, where did I get to before? Can you show the inside of the bottom of your tamarack where the curves join? I'm not that happy with how mine looks. Sure. So what I did was, that's how it looks there. I think I sewed it, I stitched the side seam down to a point, and then I had the seam allowances open, and then I just kind of like curved it, then I hand stitched the binding down, so just kind of curved it out. So yeah, it's a bit like that on the inside, and then in the outside it looks like that. Hopefully that helps. Can you suggest fabrics for the TrueBias raw scope blouse, please? The raw scope blouse is very full. It's got lots of gathers at the top. I would suggest something like a viscose for that one. Otherwise, it's going to feel quite sort of full and kind of tenty and poofy, which might be what you want. Oh my god, I nearly threw a project in the bin as it was turning out all wrong. I put it aside and added a lining to hide the mistake. I've worn the dress more than any other. There you go, all is not lost. I'm interested in changing the Norma to a round neck. Yes, it's good, makes the pattern more versatile. I had lost my confidence and hadn't made anything for myself for years. I got back into sewing in a fab way by making a toile first. Time consuming, but now I'm able to make clothes that fit. Oh, that's good. Okay, let's see. Clean your machine of fluff. Love the look of your chunky knit fabric. Would they work for the Tammy handmade Mila jumper? I don't actually know that pattern, so I'd need to just double check what it kind of looked like. I'm struggling cutting out. I need new scissors. Are there any you would recommend? Mine always seem to last about 2 years and then go blunt. I never use them for paper. I use the Prim micro serration shears, and I have had a pair of them that are 21 centimeters, so they're a bit short really, but I got them as like a sample for the shop, and I use them. I've been using them for years and years and years and never gone blunt, and they're really good. They're my favourite scissors of all time, and they have lasted really well too. Okay, I'm going to try and get through some of these pattern and fabric recommendations. I think if anybody else has any pattern or fabric recommendations that they're looking for tonight, I might have to just add them to my list for next week. Okay, somebody's asking about the pink binding for the Thelma quilted fabric. It's on order and I think it'll arrive next week. Okay, so I have 3 meters of polyester satin in a very nice print. I bought it by mistake thinking it's silk. That's a shame. I only wear natural fibres and I don't like the feel of polyester on my skin. Any ideas what to use it for? Would it work for a lining for a blazer? Yes, I think it would. If it's like slippery kind of satin, then I think it would work as a lining, and then I guess you're always going to be wearing something else, so it wouldn't ever be directly next to your skin. We do sell those scissors, yes, that I recommended. I bought a beautiful 5%, I think, stretch cotton from you, and I have no clue what to use it for. So I was thinking either, I brought some patterns over, where have you gone? I was thinking either a skirt, so you could go for something that's a bit sort of more classic and straight, this kind of style. That's the Merchant & Mills Clementine. Or this one, which is the Merchant & Mills Shepherd, which has got, that's the line drawing, it's got pleats in it. So if it's in a stretch cotton, then it'll have a bit more structure, like it'll have a bit more fullness and shape, which I think would be nice. Or the other option would be a dress that's got a bit more kind of like this kind of thing. Dress that's got a bit more sort of structure, needs a little bit more body in it. That would be nice too. I'm ready for trousers with a zip or button fly, but I'm scared. Don't be scared. It definitely won't be as bad as you think. Any patterns with amazing instructions, please? So my top picks for this one would be, both of these are good. The ginger jeans, you need stretch denim for that. Both of these also have sew-alongs on the Sewing Pattern Company's website as well. With the Dawn, you can either do a button or a zip fly or an exposed button fly. So lots of options in the fly for the Dawn. and this is good for lots of other fabrics as well, like that one of the samples there is made in a sort of heavier weight linen fabric, so you don't just, it's not just for jeans, you can do other things with that pattern too. The other one is the Landers. I've used their enzyme linen to make them in the summer before. They're really nice and they actually come together really quickly. That's an exposed button fly, and I think that's quite a simple one. It does come together super quick. Okay, I'd like to make the Marlo sweater. That's a TrueBias pattern as well. It's a cardigan. I'm looking for some fabric recommendations. I've got quite a lot of options. I'm going to quickly show you them. I've got a few that are sort of a bit more floppy and then some that have a bit more structure. This one's the mid blue rib knit blend. It's 15.70 a metre. So this is going to give you a more sort of floppy, oversized cardigan, but I think it would be nice and cozy. We've also got this in a light grey as well. This is the blue one. And then again, that's similar to the other one. This is the variated rib knit one. And we've also got this in like an ochre colour as well. This is 19.30 a metre, but again, you can see it's quite sort of floppy. So it's going to give you a more kind of floppy, oversized feel. And then we've also got these ones here, which are like a double-sided one, which is nice. So, you know, you could have a contrast hemband and cuffs, or, you know, it would just look sort of different on the inside. This is the blue and creamed double-faced knit fabric, and it's 15.70 a metre. So we've got a few different colour combinations of that one as well. Similar fabric, but just a plain, the viscose blended knit. We've got a few colours of that left. This is the mist grey. I think we've got a blue navy, a terracotta, like a sort of peacocky one as well. Would you use the double-sided for the toaster? Yeah, I think you could, definitely. Somebody's saying they made the eaves as a first pair of trousers and they'd recommend that. And then in the chunkier department, we've got this one here. We've also got this in black and a navy as well. This one is the deep peacock blue chunky knit fabric. It's 21.60 and it's kind of got like a knitted texture to it. It's really nice. So it's a bit thicker. It's going to be like a more chunkier version. And then finally, how many different Marlos can you get? Lots of different versions. We've got this in other colourways as well. This is the muted violet knit effect fabric, and it's almost like a double bonded 2 layers. So the inside looks a bit like a regular sort of single knit jersey, and then it looks a bit more knitted on that side. So all of them I think would be nice for the Marlo. Okay, next one was a fabric for the Named Sloan, please, preferably plain. This is a jumper that's actually got darts at the side, and it looked like the samples and the photographs is almost like quite a spongy scuba fabric. I think you could either go, if you wanted something that was going to be quite structured and like a little bit stiffer, you could go for, I forgot to bring this one over actually, but our Marlo sweatshirting, which is a bit of a thicker sweatshirting. But otherwise you could go for something that's a bit sort of lighter weight. The Cozy Colours is a nice sweatshirting, but it's not as sort of stiff and thick as the Marlo sweatshirting. So it comes in lots of different colours, the Cozy Colours one. This is the rose. And then a bit more floppy again, so I think it would take the dark quite well, is the loop back medal jersey. So this is, you can see it's much more kind of floppy. It's not really going to hold its shape at all. So it might end up feeling a bit more like a top if you made it out of this, as opposed to like a jumper or a sweater. But I think it would still work nicely. This is the moss green loop back jersey, and it's 17.40 a metre. It comes in lots of nice plain colours too. So a few options there. The next one is I'm making the Marie shirt kit. What other plain fabrics do you recommend for the pattern? Now again, you could either go for something that is that's a bit more floppy, like the viscose that's in the kit. So a nice example of that would be the viscose linen fabric that we've got, which has got quite a high percentage of viscose, so it is pretty floppy. Like you can see here, it's flopping around a lot. This comes in lots of plain colours as well. This particular one's the sky blue one. Sorry, the tag on here's not got the price. Or you could, what else did I bring over for that? You could use something that's got a bit more structure to it as well, but then obviously it's got all those pleats and tucks at the top, the Marie, so then it is quite full here. So it would, if you use something like a cotton lawn, or a lightweight linen. We don't have any lightweight linen at the moment, but we usually get some closer to the summer. That would be really nice to work with. It'd be nice and crisp for sewing in those tucks, but it would just make the garment feel a lot fuller. So a few options there. Okay, I'm going to an awards dinner. That sounds fun. I'm thinking of making the cashmerette Rockwell dress. Any fabric ideas? This is like a gorgeous dress that's like a V-neck, and all the fabric sort of like gathers up, and then it's got a waistband, like a really full gathered skirt. I think one of these viscose satins would be really nice. This is one of the Fabric Godmother ones, the Fabric Godmother Bonnie Cream one. And because it's got a bit of a sheen to it, I think it feels a little bit more formal. So it'd be really lovely in that. And then also in this one here, this one looks very sort of fancy and luxurious too. It's got this beautiful sort of watercolour painted rose on it. It's lovely. You can see it's really lovely and floppy, and I think that would just look very sort of lush and yeah, really fancy. It's the Rosita Viscose Ecovero satin fabrics, $24.50 a metre. It feels very silky, very nice. Okay, so the next one, well, I'm still trying to like batter through all these questions. Can you recommend some fabrics for the Anna Allen Anthea blouse, please? This is the one that's similar to the Fiberman Norma, but it's got a higher round neck. It's got quite full sleeves. The pictures I've seen of that, the sleeves are very full. So I think it's whether you want to embrace that or not, or whether you'd want something that's going to flop and be a little bit more subtle. I think you could either go for a cotton lawn, which will hold it'll hold a bit of the shape, but it won't be too sort of stiff. This is one of the Liberty cotton lawns, so you could definitely go for something like that, or you could go for a viscose, and then you're going to get that fullness, but it will kind of flop and hang down a little bit more. That's one of the lovely Atelier Brunette viscose prints, the new ones. I love that one. It comes in another colourway too. Or if you wanted it to hold even more structure and be even more sort of like, you know, holding that shape of the sleeve, this would be a little bit of a cozier version. I think you could use this for it as well. It's the Robert Kaufman Ocean Shetland Flannel Cotton fabric, and it's $20.30 a metre. So it's really going to hold the fullness of that sleeve. So I think it depends on how statementy you want to go on the sleeves on that one. Which one of your fabrics would you pick for a maxi? Shelby dress by TrueBias, not one of Fabric Godmother's. I think I would pick this one here. This is a viscose twill. It's the seal grey animal print viscose twill, $13.60 a metre. I've seen a really lovely version of this. Somebody made the Tilling the Buttons Lyra dress, and it looked really good. So I think it would be really nice for the Shelby as well. And because it's a viscose twill, it's a little bit weightier, it's thicker, it's got that diagonal weave texture to it. It's, you know, got good opacity. You don't need to worry about lining it or anything. So I think that would be a really lovely one for that. Somebody's saying I bought the Atelier Brunette for that exact pattern. Great minds, there we go. Did you French seam your Archer, please? No, I didn't. What pattern company do the Marie jumper, please? Sorry, the Marlo sweater is TrueBias. Okay, I think someone else helped you there. Okay, the next one was fabric for the Philippa pants. I got the kit, but I love the pattern, so I want to make more. That's the ones I'm wearing just now. This is one of the kit samples. It's actually really hard to get really good fabric like that, and I had to like totally seek it out to get it for the kit, so I don't actually have any other options for you in the shop. We are restocking the ones that we used in the kit, but they do just come in more like basic colours. I will keep an eye out though for maybe more exciting colours, but that is the best fabric that I've got, the one that we put in the kit. I can't find any other ones that are as good as that. Okay, the next one, I'm looking for a fitted-ish midi dress pattern with an elastic waist and arms and no zip. I had a quick look on the fold line pattern database, which, see, if you've got something like really specific in your head of what you want, I would totally recommend looking on there, because they have got so many hundreds and hundreds of different patterns listed, and it is a really good place to look if you've got like a very specific image in your head of something. I found the dovetailed, that was a pattern company, dovetailed Agatha dress, which looked quite fitted, and it had an elastic waist, so you could try that. It didn't have elastic arms though, but maybe you could sort of somehow fashion that in. I'm looking for a man's classic short sleeved shirt pattern, but not one that opens with lapels. Again, I had a look on the fold line database for that one, and I found the Burda men's 6931. It looked pretty classic and short sleeved to me. Will the dotty fabric from the last kit be available by the metre? Possibly, I don't know. Can you email us and we'll add you to the inquiries list for that? I'm looking for trouser suggestions for a floral stretch gabardine for spring summer. I would say either the Avid Seamstress City trousers or the Sasha, the Closet Core Sasha for that one. I'm searching for fabric to make the Tilly and the Buttons Juno Pjs. So you could either go lighter or heavier with this one. Something like this, which is a cotton and modal mix. But the weight of it's more like a t-shirt weight. So this is going to give you a thinner pair of pyjamas, but the modal content in it makes it quite floppy. And really nice and soft, so it feels really lovely next to your skin. We do also, I don't think I brought any over actually, but we do also have a range of plain tencel jerseys that would feel a bit lighter weight and be really nice and soft and silky, which you could use for the Junos. You could also just use a regular cotton, sort of more like a classic t-shirt weight. You could use that as well. That would give you a lighter option. Or if you're looking for something a bit cozier, I think this would be nice. I would say this is more like a lightweight sweatshirting fabric. And this one is the mint Marlo fleeceback sweatshirt fabric at $16.40 a metre. So this will give you like a cozier pair. This is probably a bit easier to work with than the cotton modal one, but both would make really lovely versions of the Juno Pjs. The next one was recommendations for material for a trench coat as the Meat Milk Smooth Drape 2 Floppy. I don't think it is. I'm sure somebody was asking about a trench coat pattern, but I can't remember what one it was now. And I think the sample might have actually been made in Smooth Drape Tencel Twill. So I actually think you might be all right. I thought there was a pattern for a trench coat in one of the named pattern books. This is the Smooth Drape Tencel Twill here. It's really good, very versatile fabric, feels really, really soft. But then when I went to look at it, it's not actually a trench coat, it's in that Building the Pattern book. And it's the Kulas jacket was that one. I was thinking was a trench coat and clearly it's not, but that sample's made out of what I think looks like a Smooth Drape Tencel Twill, and you know, it looks really nice. I really like that. I wanted to make that when I first saw that book. We've got so many jackets and not enough time. Okay, the next one, I've just got a few left, so I'm going to just keep squeezing them in even though it's gone past 9 now. Can you suggest alternatives to denim for a denim jacket? An old machine and thick seams is a no-no. I would say probably your best bet is this cotton twill fabric that we do in quite a range of different colours. It's the one that we had for the Sewing Society Ilford and Kelly Anorak kits when we did it. It's the classic navy cotton twill fabric. It's $14.50 a metre, and I think that would still look nice in like a denim style jacket, but it's definitely not sort of thick and heavy. If you're ever not sure if your machine can handle it, remember we sell by the 10 centimetre, so you could just buy a little bit and then do some test bits on your machine and see if it can handle it. The next one was, I love the Thelma fabric and would like to make a gilet without a hood. Any pattern suggestions using that fabric, please? So Cashmerette have the Marco puffer vest, which looks really nice and it doesn't have a hood. And that's one of the patterns from their sort of subscription membership thing. But I'm pretty sure from what I gather, you can pay to join for a month, get the pattern and then just cancel your subscription. So then you're only paying for what, you know, like a month's worth of subscription to get the pattern, which is like the price of a pattern anyway. But it looks really nice and the sample's made up of that and like a puffer fabric as well, so it gives you a good idea of what it looked like. I've just ordered some sage/white jersey and wondered if you could show any other striped fabric for making tops that are a bit more weighty than a thin t-shirt, similar to Bowden Winter at Breton. So the closest thing I've got to that, what I think you should look out for, is a cotton loop back fabric, because it's just got a bit more weight to it. So this one here is the wide stripe soft pink and ginger loop back fabric. It's $17.20 a metre. I've got a Jennifer Lauren Gable top out of this, which I wear a lot. I've got the same pattern and another colourway of this fabric, which we did as a kit years and years ago now. And it's worn and washed so well. It's a really good fabric, it just feels a bit thicker. So yeah, I would say like a loop back French terry and a stripe. So we normally do have it in a cream with a thin navy stripe and then a navy with a thin cream stripe. But I couldn't see any on the shelf, so we must be out right now, but hopefully we should be able to order more of that. I'll check tomorrow, but we do have that one in stock and it's good. And then I've got Can You Show the smooth drape twill and the bottle green and the washed teal, trying to decide would that work with the Untitled Thoughts olive jumpsuit. Yes, I think it would. I had a quick look at that pattern, and the two colours of that are, one's on a roll and one's on the bowl. So this is the washed teal, and I'll try and hold it up together. This is the washed teal and that's the bottle green. So I would say this is maybe like a bit more kind of duller and muted. This is a bit more vibrant and sort of saturated. So hopefully seeing the two together will help you decide. Phew, that was all the questions on my list. Right, let me have a quick look through what has been sent in beforehand and then we'll see where we get to. Any recommendations for a fabric for the Avery leggings? Yes, so good news, which has been kind of pushed to the back because I've been so busy with all of our birthday celebrations coming up. I'm getting more of the fabric that was in the Avery leggings kits made again. It was made especially for us for the kits when we did them last year, and so many people kept asking that I have got more manufactured and made for us. It's coming soon. I got the lab dips the other week and approved them, so it should be coming within the next couple of weeks. So yeah, more on that to follow. The Isla trench coat is lovely. I made it from cotton twill. That sounds nice. Thank you so much for your help in chat. No probs. I just made the Isla and it's gorgeous. Isla trench by Named. That seems like a popular one. I am part way through an Isla and have lost track how many times I've unpicked. Will persevere. Some projects just end up like that. It'll be worth it in the end, Hannah. You'll get there. Okay, everybody's saying thank you. Thanks for all the info. Another great live. See you next week. Yeah, see you next week, everyone. Do you need to size up the gable with French terry? I didn't. No. Thank you. Love my Monday sewing salvation. Yay to Avery fabric. I know, I'm excited as well. So much lovely sewing chat. A lot of sewing chat tonight. Lots of chat. Have a fabulous week. Likewise. Thank you, Lauren, for another sew chat. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for your thanks. It's been jam-packed tonight. I'll try and get it on YouTube tomorrow morning for anybody who wants to catch up and watch it there. And I'm hoping that I'll see you next week. It is half term, but my intention is that I will still be here, but I'll let you know if not. So yeah, enjoy the rest of your evening. Have a good week. Watch out for the newsletter on Wednesday. Some exciting news there, and I'll see you soon. Bye.